Hello, fellow Magruder teachers. My name is Karen Fitzsimmons, and I am a mathematics teacher and technology integrator here at Magruder High School. I have recently done an extensive amount of research into our county and school policies on using technology and have discovered that there is a lot of information that most of us are not aware of. We know that everyone uses technology here at Magruder. But did you know that just 7 years ago, only 35% of American adults had cell phones with apps? And that over the course of 3 years, that percentage almost doubled, so that now over 80% of Americans have a smartphone and use one? 92% of American teens use the internet daily. We live in a global society, everyone, and it is our responsibility and the expectation that we start integrating technology into our classrooms so that we can provide our students with 21st century skills that will help them to become contributing members of society. This year, we have enough Chromebooks to supply two-thirds of our staff with a class set, 2 computer labs, a strong Wi-Fi network, and a lot of students with their own devices. So how can we share the powers of all of this technology for good with our students? We see them all the time on their cell phones, using social media, taking pictures, sending text messages. We know that that's not allowed, but how do we know what we can and can't use? What do we do when something inappropriate happens during technology use? An AUP is the answer. An AUP, or acceptable use policy, is a policy that outlines in writing how a school or district expects its community members to behave with technology. School AUPs should include guidelines for appropriate and inappropriate use of school-provided hardware, software, and the network, which include privacy, inappropriate content, copyright, network security, stipulations for cyberbullying, and more. Outline of consequences for inappropriate use. How to promote digital citizenship and who is responsible for doing so in our students and staff. How to address social media use, and a signed agreement before access is granted to any user. Here is our current contract with MCPS and using their technology. It's the login screen of any school-based technology. Hardware. Take a moment to read it. By clicking OK, you have agreed to MCPS Regulation IGTRA and everything that it entails. Do you know what MCPS Regulation IGTRA says? Because I didn't, and our students don't. This regulation is not found in any print material that is provided to students throughout the course of the year, or to teachers for that matter. In the Students' Rights and Responsibilities handbook that they receive in the beginning of the year, there is a reference to this regulation along with a responsible use policy that suggests 7 different ways to responsibly use the technology in our building. You can search for this regulation on MCPS's website. It is a 9-page document that addresses all users of MCPS networks and devices and does not always distinguish between student and staff member. While this document is essentially our acceptable use policy, and it does provide a extensive list of appropriate and inappropriate uses of the network and school provided devices, it does not address the use of portable technologies in the building for neither staff nor students. It also alludes to a number of different documents, and its last revision was 5 years ago in 2012. One of the documents that it alludes to does address student use of portable communication devices, cell phones, tablets. This also was last revised 5 years ago and states secondary school students may possess PCDs and may use PCDs during lunch only, and that the secondary school student may not turn on or use the device until the end of the official student day. Now, I'm not sure about everybody in the school, but I can state that for every teacher that I interviewed and the students that I've interviewed, this policy has never been enforced in our building. Students have their cell phones out all of the time. Now, how are we supposed to use these cell phones for school-related purposes if they're not even allowed to be turned on either? And this goes directly against what our administrators have been telling us the entire year about using cell phones for educational purposes. As I mentioned earlier, Regulation IGTRA is the closest thing that we have to an acceptable use policy. And out of this 9-page document, there was one item that stood out the most to me. And it's probably the one that we need to address the most directly. Students are to be educated about appropriate online behavior, including interactions with other individuals on social networking sites and in chat rooms, and about cyberbullying awareness and response. That is the only mention of educating students. There is no mention of who is responsible for educating those students and when that education is supposed to happen. In the Students' Rights and Responsibilities Handbook that the students receive at the beginning of the year is the one space that it states that it is the joint responsibility of school personnel and the parent and guardian of each student. So how do we do it? The first step is that we need to create two very clear acceptable use policies, one geared for students and one geared for staff. The acceptable use policy geared for students should contain all of the current provisions that are currently listed in IGT-RA, but should also include a revision of the portable communication device to allow for educational use of students' personal devices. They also should have a signed agreement that should be signed every year by the student and a parent or guardian to allow for yearly access of our network and any MCPS devices. In addition, we should have a clear acceptable use policy for staff that is distributed to all teachers during pre-service week and includes a detailed explanation of how to educate students on their policy, on their AUP. The second step is to provide easy access to those policies. Currently, we have different documents, a total of 5, that address different pieces of technology use. The student agenda books should have the most important information highlighted and directions on how to access the full copy of the AUP. Teachers should also be required to read and sign their policy yearly so that they are prepared to share the knowledge about how to appropriately use technology in the classroom. The students' AUP should be posted in all classrooms, and all teachers should follow the policies themselves and directly refer to them for students. These policies should be shared with parents at back to school night, and formal training sessions should be provided for teachers every year during pre-service week, along with training sessions for students every year. In addition, every lesson where students are using technology should include and support digital citizenship education. The international standards for technology education state that technology coaches model and facilitate safe, healthy, legal, and ethical uses of digital information and technologies. We are technology coaches every time we have students accessing digital information in our classroom. Every time we are facilitating their use of electronic devices. All teachers need to incorporate the standard into every lesson. And do as I do. Model the policies for the students. I have heard on numerous occasions students tell me that they see teachers on their cell phones using social media during class. Follow the policies that you expect your students to follow when you are with them. We should provide sessions for parents to learn as well, including consistent expectations. We need to make digital citizenship a priority in our building and regularly address it. We should have posters up in the school about safe internet use. If 92% of our students are on the internet at least once a day, and an average teenager spends multiple hours on the internet every day, isn't it our responsibility to teach them how to use it safely? Having a strong and clear acceptable use policy is the first step in that education. We should never have any tolerance for anything less in our school building. Common Sense Education at commonsenseeducation.org is a fantastic resource for digital citizenship lesson ideas. They provide templates and outlines for boot camp lessons for students, for lessons for teachers, lessons for parents, guidelines on how to create an effective, acceptable use policy, and ideas on how to incorporate digital citizenship into your everyday lessons in your classroom. I hope this has been an informative session and you have learned a little bit about the acceptable use policy at our school and how kids should be accessing the internet and what our responsibilities as teachers are. Here are a list of a number of websites for more information on our AUP and how to have our kids using technology safely. Thank you.